What's up, guys? It's Troy. So I've finished the beta on the progression tool right now. That's what it looks like as of right now. So I just wanted to make this quick little video to show how it works for anybody that wants to beta test this stuff for me to make sure we get the league distributions right. League distribution is very important to really any sports game. If you have players that are too good, then it kind of waters it down. If you have players that are too bad, it waters it down. So you want to have that nice little balance of some good players, some medium-sized players, and some lower players, um, or rated players. Anyways, so that's where you guys will come in. I don't have time to sim a crap load of seasons, but if I can get a couple guys here and there to give me some data back, then I can compile all that stuff, and then I can fine-tune this tool to make it where it comes out pretty good. We did a decent job with version 4.0 of this progression tool of that, but as I've played my 49ers franchise more and more, I've noticed that it's not bad by any means, but it does tend to kind of go a little bit on the higher side. That's going to be apparent if you only play a few seasons, I think, with this tool as well. With the way everything's structured and the way it works, having players that can progress from, all in one season to all the way up to 6 seasons until they reach their potential, that it can kind of skew some of the factors. So you're really not going to get really accurate data till season 6 and on, right? So for anybody that does want to do this and help me out, I suggest simming 10 seasons because season 6 through 10 is going to be our really, really accurate ones where we can see exactly how this tool works and if it's working correctly, or if I need to tweak some of the formulas on how the tiers work and stuff like that. That's going to be the data that I need back. Obviously, the first 6 seasons are still solid. Well, that gives me a good baseline to go off of. But what you'll initially probably see with this is that the first 3 or 4, maybe even 5 seasons, it's going to seem like it gets a little overpowered. But then hopefully it'll start balancing out a little bit. And then, like I said, from there I can figure out what kind of tweaks I need to make to the tiers, if any at all. So with that, instead of doing a README, since nobody reads them ever, and I really didn't feel like typing, talking's a lot easier, I was going to run you through how to use this. Any of you guys have used my tools before, it's pretty much the same. There's actually one less step because we're only doing one progression per year. You still got your year 1 progression and year 1 off season, then year 2 and on, and year 2 and on off season. It's again, it's pretty straightforward. I try to make these things as easy as possible to use, so there's not that many issues. Here's your progression report. Here's your off-season report. I put them in rows or columns. So you run your first progression and then you do your progression report. You run your off-season and you do your off-season report. Boom, boom. Easy as that. And this is your league distribution button, which is gonna produce that report I just created to tell me what your league looks like as far as overalls. With that, I'm going to run you through the first 2 seasons just so you can see what to do. Again, if you've ran my tools before, it's pretty basic. So here we go. Madden, I already have open on my computer.
Feedback, they clear the way with my crew coming through. What I do?
Hopefully that mutes Madden. Okay, so what you're going to want to do, I already have my franchise set up. You're going to want to start a base franchise that has all your XP sliders zeroed out. That's key. If you don't zero out your XP sliders, none of this data is going to matter. Sorry, I need a drink of water there real quick. Okay, anyways, so this is my test that I always start with. Everything's zeroed out, everything's good to go. So to make things easy, I suggest just simming to mid-season every time before you run your first progression. That way you don't have to worry about anything else. Again, I'm not really concerned with anything other than running the tool correctly and then generating our reports later on. Okay, so you'll sim to mid-season like so. While we're waiting for this, I always have all my stuff open at the same time. depending on how powerful your computer is, sometimes having Madden open while running the tool and also having the franchise editor open might be too much. You might have to do things separately. It just really depends on what your computer can handle. Madden is a very CPU intensive game, so sometimes it doesn't like running other tasks while having that open. But I have a pretty powerful computer, so that's not really an issue. I'll show you some methods that I use to keep everything organized when I'm doing these tests. There currently is not a whoops, I screwed up button inside the macro or inside the tool. So if you import the wrong file, if you click on the wrong button, you basically are gonna have to start over. So be very careful when you're running it, knowing what you're doing, what stage you're at, stuff like that. That way you don't have to start over, because that sucks. So I'm at mid-season right now. What I'm going to do is I'm going to exit out, because you never want to work on a franchise file while it's open. Go to the franchise editor, and this is my autosave where I'm at right now. So that's at week 8 of season 1. Okay, so what I always do here is I make a copy. Okay, that way this is my go back just in case I screw up. I always name the new one. Oh, sorry, I'll keep test there. Year 1 first. Okay, makes it easy for me. So year 1 first would be the first progression, and then you'll see later on I'll do year 1 second, and that's my off-season progression. And then the next year it's year 2 first, year 2 second, and so on and so forth. That way I always know where I'm at. So if you're looking at these two files right here, this is going to be before we progress, and this is going to be after we progress. So if I ever need to go back, I can go back right there to that one. It's also important that you remember which is which, because this file we're going to use for the league distribution, the initial one. Okay. So first thing I want to do is, should I show you everything at the same time? I think I will. Okay. This is how I would do it. Okay. So this is just for you guys helping me out with the league distribution stuff. Once you eventually release this tool and you do your own things, I'll create a whole nother video and show you how to do it. Okay. So we're going to click on the autosave. You're going to go to the player table, which is 144. You're going to export the file. I have things already set up in here for me. Here's my league distributions, year 1, year 2, year 3, so on and so forth. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and overwrite this file. Actually, delete this too. Okay, so you should have nothing. Just set these up for each year. That way it just keeps everything organized and simple. Anyway, so this is what I'm going to save my export as right here. It's going to ask me to overwrite because it was already there, but if you guys make a new file, it won't do that. Okay, so there's that. Close that out. I'm going to click on League Distribution Report. It's going to say open your player table. We're going to open the one we just created. Okay, so I want to go to my League Distribution, year 1. Click on that. It's going to run. Once the blue spinning circle goes away, we're done. Now if I go back into my files, year 1, this is what got generated. Okay, double click on that. Here's the new report that I created. Right here is your summary, how many players at each position are in each range of overall, the total at the end, the percentage compared to total players in the league, and then this is your averages per position on how good the overalls are. Okay, and this is your league average. 68.96 is the league average overall. Okay, if you really want to look into it, I broke it down by each individual rating for each position. So you could really look at that if you want to too. That's more so for me. I don't really expect you guys to just like dig deep into this stuff. Once I get everything, I can kind of run it through some other formulas and things that I have created before to kind of figure out where we need to go or if we need to go anywhere. So this right here though is the most important thing for me right here. So once I'm done with that, I go in and just change that to year 1 so I know it's the league distribution from year 1, and you're done with league distribution. So we can go back to franchise editor. We're going to close this file because that's the only thing we needed it for. We're going to open another one, and now we're going to do the one we created. So this is going to be our progression one. Okay, so you're going to double click on that. Same thing, 144. Going to export this one. Now this is going to be under my year 1. This is my progression years. So I'm gonna run through 3 years. That's what I'm gonna do. So I already have it set up. So This will be year 1 first. Okay, I usually just name it the same as my export, or my franchise file. Let that do its thing. Close that out. So now I'm going to go into my tool right here again. Year 1 progression is what I want to click on. Again, it's going to say open your player table you just exported. So I'm going to go to my year 1 first, double click. It's going to run me through everything. Again, once your circle's gone, it's done. Okay, so that's done. As soon as I finish that, I click on my progression report. Same thing, boom, it's done. Now if I go back into my file folder for year 1, here is my import. Notice how it's only 40 KB. This is the one that's going to import the skill points back in. And here is my progression report for that period. So you can double click on your progression report if you want. Check out what's going on. These are all the players that are under 6 years, even the ones that didn't get any progression at all. You can see the highest progression we had here was a 38, which is freaking insane. He must have been really low rated. And you can sort by it. You can do anything you want to with this thing. You can sort, you can filter, you can do whatever you want. It's your tool. You can save when you're done. It's not going to be reflected to anything else. It's just a report that got generated by the thing, so it doesn't have anything to do with the tool anymore. So you can do whatever you want to with it. But there's that. Remember to always save your tool. Very important. If you don't save this tool, it doesn't have the stuff in it that it needs for the next one. So once you're done with that, go back into this. You're going to import your year 1. Remember, it's the small one. It's always going to say this one's going to say year 1 progression _ import. Everything after that will say year 2 plus progression and offset. You'll see it says the same name. This is another reason why you also want to create yearly folders for your stuff, because it's always going to generate a report that has the same file name. If you put it under all the same folders, it's just going to copy over the old one. So make sure you keep things in different folders. Anyways, so I'm importing back in, importing successful. We save it, we close it. Another important thing, always close this out when you're done, because then if you go back into Madden and start playing while that's open, things can happen, things can get corrupted. Better safe than sorry. So I'm back in the Madden now. We're going to load my franchise. Test year 1 first. There it is. Okay. I have everything set to auto upgrade right now. But obviously you can click on any team, and the easiest way to find out if it worked is to find a young player on a team, click on them, and they should have some skill points. There you go. That means the import worked. I went through this quite a bit. I found no errors as far as importing things back in and things like that. The only real issue that I need to work on with this is to make sure league distribution's right. So I don't know if it's going to make the league too overpowered, which I'm leaning to thinking it might be a little bit overpowered, especially with the way the free agency and the practice squad bank works now, where before they would just, if they didn't get it for that year, it would be gone. Now it's kind of sitting there. So if they get signed, especially with Sabo, if you use Sabo's AI logic mod, where there's a lot more practice squad moving around and people getting signed and things like that, and the position requirements and stuff, there's a better chance of some of these players hitting their bank than there ever was before, which is still fun, which I think is more exciting, but I might need to tone down a few things here and there. Okay, so we're done with that, and we will advance to off-season. So 2 advances, real easy, mid-season, off-season. The next one, I'll show you the next one when we get there. So while we wait on this, I'm going to be quiet, I guess. As far as the tool goes, it's pretty much done, or at least the regression part is done. The real only thing left over is to figure out what to do with the league distribution and if we have to adjust that. After that, I'm going to add a 5th year option for CPU teams. Thanks to Synthros and Sabo for mentioning that. That'll be included into this. We're also going to have the trait tool and the ability tool built into this whole thing as well. That way you can do it all from one thing. You don't have to have multiple tools on your computer, multiple things to remember. And hopefully it makes everything a lot easier. And of course I have other ideas for other things later on, maybe not involved with this, but I'll let you guys know that stuff if I have time for that type of stuff later. Okay, so we're at the off-season stage. Okay, so we're going to exit out of this again. Remember, do not leave your franchise open. We're going to open our franchise. This is the autosave where we're just at. Again, I'm going to copy and save. Copy and paste. We're going to change this to year 1 second. Okay. Also, as far as the league distribution goes, I only need 1 per year. Okay. Always do it at that week 8 period right before you do your progression. That way it's just consistent. It's in the same spot, and then you don't have to worry about it again. So we're skipping that part this time. I've got my year 1 second. I'm going to double click on that. Again, 144. We're going to export. So this time it's going to be year 1 second. Close that out. We're going to run year 1 off-season resign stage regression. Open the player table. So year 1 second, that was the one we just saved. Okay, I'll double click on that. Done. Okay. Off-season report. Double click or just click on that. Boom. Real quick, real fast. Save your tool. We can go back into here and we can see our off-season report now. There's this. It tells you if anybody got a dev upgrade. This is their old one. This means yes, they did. So anybody that was a superstar in this is now an X Factor. Any normal is now a star. Any star is now a superstar. That's how that works. And yeah, so this is pretty much just like the old one was. Same thing. You can filter, sort, do whatever you want to with it. The only difference now is it shows people that didn't earn progression, but if they could have earned progression. So there's that. We go back to this. We're going to import now. So we're still on year 1. Remember, this was the second. That's the one we did. So you find this is what's called year 1 regression import. So it's always, the progression is always going to be called whatever year you're doing. So this is year 1 progression import. The regression is going to be year 1 regression. Next year, it'll say year 2 plus progression, then year 2 plus regression. That's it. So again, that's why you save it in different folders. So here's the thing. Double click on. Save it. Go ahead and close it. Back to Madden. Load. And year 1 second is our franchise. So this, I mean, again, everything should work as long as you import and do the stuff you're supposed to do right. This one's a little harder to see if it works right. Actually, I guess it's not, because it's going to get all your progression or your practice squad players assigned anyway. So again, go to age, or maybe even go to lowest overall. This guy, he's got 7 skill points. So that's his practice squad. He was a practice squad guy. That's his point. So everything worked out fine. We're good to go. We're going to advance to next season. I'm hoping that my microphone still works because it cut out a second ago. And I really hope I'm still recording. I am good. Okay, yeah, it's all still working. All right, so once we get here, we're going to advance to mid-season again. Sorry for the silence. When I don't have anything to talk about, I do get kind of quiet. As you can see, I try to make this as simple as I possibly could. And I think I accomplished that for the most part. So if anybody does have questions, hopefully they can refer to this video to get their answers instead of us having to repeat ourselves over and over again, or Sin always having to be my question and answer guy. So, okay, here we go. We're in mid-season. Exit out. Remember, this is the point where I want you to do your league distribution file. So we're going to do that again. We're going to open this up. We're at year 1 second autosave. So we're going to control paste that one. And now we're going to go to year 2. Sorry guys, my headphones keep cutting out. I'm not sure if that's because they're low battery or not, but anyways, okay, so didn't finish saving that. So year 2 second. Okay, I mean, no, I'm sorry. Ooh, almost messed myself up. Year 2 first. That's where we're at. Okay, but first we're going to go to the one we just did. We're going to double click on that. 144 for player table. We're going to do the league distribution. Export, league distribution. Remember what we did in year 1, so now we're just going to go to our year 2 folder. There's already stuff in here. Just name it year 2. Done with that. Run our league distribution. Open the player table. We're going to open the one we just did. So that was the year 2 one. As you can see, it's right there. Just to show a quick comparison, I'll double click that one. And we'll open year 1. And just to do a quick in comparison, you can see that this was year 1, this is year 2, and there's been a slight uptick from 0.85 to 1.19% in guys 95 to 99. There's been a slight uptick in 90 to 94, 1.93 to 2.11. Slight downtick in 85 to 89, and so on and so forth. This is what's really key for me to figure things out. I know it's going to be a gradual upscale until we get to, again, about year 5, 6, somewhere around there, and then it should really balance out and tell us exactly where we're at. That's why it's important to do 10 years worth of sims, and I know that's tedious and it sucks, but it's really key to, if you got some spare time, just to kind of hang out to give me the data I need to make this thing as accurate as possible, or at least, yeah, as accurate as possible. Okay, so we're done with that stuff. And now we're going to go back into the franchise editor, close, we're going to open, and we're going to do the one we just did, year 2 first. This is going to be our progression one. As you can see, many of these steps are very repetitive. We're going to export. We are in year 2 now. So I always like to keep things very consistent on how I name them. Sometimes I forget, but year 2 first is what we're naming this one. Close that. Now we're on year 2. So year 2 plus. From here on and out, we're only going to be using these 2. That's it. This is done. This is only the very, very first season you use this tool. It doesn't really matter if it's year 1, year 5, year 10, whatever season or whatever year you start using the tool, that's when you run the first. Okay. Every year after that, you run the second. Okay. If you ever make a mistake, you mess up, something screws up, finish out that year, start over with year 1 again. That resets the tool to your league, and you can keep playing. You don't have to restart your franchise. Okay, I'll get more in depth into that when I actually release a video when this whole thing is done. But just remember that. You never have to restart your franchise with this tool. You just have to reset the tool to your franchise. So we're at year 2 progression. Click on that, open your player table. We're going to the ones we just made, year 2 first. Done. Run your progression report. Done. Go check everything out. There it is as your progression report. Same as before, all your stuff's in there. And there is your small little file. Go back to franchise editor. We're going to import year 2 plus regression import. Done. Save it and close it. Back into Madden. Year 2 first. That's where we're at. Okay. Again, if you want to check, obviously George Kittle got good at some point in time, but check out some of your low players or your young players. There's Bosa getting another skill point, so skill points went in. Off season, we are almost done, guys. Those progression and off-season reports are actually very fascinating the more you go through them, just to see kind of what happens and things like that. It was suggested to make something where we can look at like a draft class from, let's say the one that just happened right now this year. So if you do the start today file and use the draft class now, to be able to look back 6 seasons to that draft class and see where they started, where they progressed to, what all that stuff is. That's an outstanding idea. I'm not 100% sure how to implement it, but I think I have a good idea. It would basically just be a report generated, but you'd have to, yeah, I'm not 100% sure. I have an idea in my head. Explaining it is a little more complex, but I think something like that would be possible, and it would actually be cool to be able to look back on a draft class, 6 years later to see where everything's at, especially when all these players keep coming in. I mean, you can't keep track of all the players like that. Okay, so we're at the off-season stage. We're going to go ahead and exit out again. We are going to go back into franchise editor. Remember, I only need the lead distribution data one time a year, so you don't have to do it right now. Year 2 first autosave, copy, paste. This goes to second. Double click. 144. Export. Year 2. Second. There it is. We're going to run our off-season stage. Year 2 second was the one we just exported. Done. Off-season report. Done. There's your off-season report. Good to go. And we're going to go back into here. We're going to import your 2 plus regression import. Successful. Save. Close. And back into Madden. Load our file. Test year 2 second. Done. Get your team. And there you go. Everything worked. So that's it in a nutshell. Pretty basic, pretty easy. Anybody that can help me out, I would much appreciate it. And then hopefully I can finish this thing up fairly quickly so we can have this thing coincide with the Start Today release and everybody can get their stuff going and have a much more enjoyable franchise experience than EA gives us now. I will talk to you guys later.